الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد، قال الإمام الحافظ الحجة أبو عبد الله محمد بن إسماعيل بن إبراهيم ابن المغيرة بن بردزبة الجعفي والبخاري: حدثنا قتيبة قال حدثنا يعقوب بن عبد الرحمن عن أبي حازم عن سهل بن سعد الساعدي رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم التقى هو والمشركون فاقتتلوا، فلما مال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى عسكره ومال الآخرون إلى عسكرهم، وفي أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رجل لا يدع لهم شاذة ولا فاذة إلا اتبعها يضربها بسيفه، فقال: ما أجزأ منا اليوم أحد كما أجزأ فلان. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: أما إنه من أهل النار. فقال رجل من القوم: أنا صاحبه. فخرج معه، كلما وقف معه، وإذا أسرع معه. قال: فجرح الرجل جرحا شديدا فاستعجل الموت، فوضع نصل سيفه بالأرض وذبابه بين ثدييه، ثم تحامل على سيفه فقتل نفسه. فخرج الرجل إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال: أشهد أنك رسول الله. قال: وما ذاك؟ قال: الرجل الذي ذكرت آنفا أنه من أهل النار. فأعظم الناس ذلك، فقلت أنا لكم به، فخرجت في طلبه، ثم جرح جرحا شديدا فاستعجل الموت، فوضع نصل سيفه في الأرض وذبابه بين ثدييه، ثم تحامل عليه فقتل نفسه. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عند ذلك: إن الرجل لا يعمل بعمل أهل الجنة فيما يبدو للناس وهو من أهل النار، وإن الرجل لا يعمل عمل أهل النار فيما يبدو للناس وهو من أهل الجنة. This is a hadith that Imam Bukhari rahimahullah has quoted in numerous chapters of his book. And we are reading the first of those riwayat. And the chapter under which, the subchapter under which this hadith is mentioned, its title is Babun La Yaqulu aw La Yuqalu Fulanun Shaheed. This is a chapter from the chapters of Kitab al-Jihad, in which Imam Bukhari rahimahullah is mentioning a rule that it should not be said that so-and-so is a shaheed. What does it mean? It means one should not try to designate by himself who is shaheed and who is not shaheed until the matter is verified. Until it is verified that what condition the person died in. And until it is verified that who the person was. And what his effort was for. And what he died doing. So Imam Bukhari rahimahullah narrates from his Ustad Qutaybah Qutayba here refers to Qutayba ibn Sa'id. Qutayba ibn Sa'id, rahimahullah, is one of those narrators of hadith who took frequently, he took many riwayat from the Tab'ut Tabi'in. So he was in the generation of people that came. So you see, there's Sahaba, and there's Tabi'in, then Tab'ut Tabi'in, and then after them. So Tab'u Tabi'it Tabi'in. Qutayba ibn Sa'id was from those people. And Muhaddithin have mentioned that Qutayba ibn Sa'id, rahimahullah, has quoted directly from Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. And in fact, some Muhaddithin have mentioned some asanid in which Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal has taken from him. So, this is a big Imam of Hadith. He quotes from Yaqub ibn Abdul Rahman, who is also from the same generation of people, or he is from the Tab'ut Tabi'in themselves. He narrates this hadith from Abu Hazim, and Abu Hazim is Salama ibn Dinar. He was from the Tabi'in. And Salama ibn Dinar, it is mentioned about him, Imam Dhahabi rahimahullah says that in his time, there was no one in his class in terms of remembering and retaining ahadith and honesty and trustworthiness in conveying those ahadith. So he was a very reliable and a solid ravi. He quotes directly from Sahal ibn Sa'ad as-Sa'idi radiyallahu anhu, who is a sahabi. This narration is actually, it's a part of what took place at the Battle of Badr. A small glimpse of what happened at the Battle of Badr, and from all of the activities that were taking place, this is one instance that happened during that battle. So what happened? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came face to face with the mushrikeen, and the battle continued. So one day, after a whole day of fighting, the Muslims went back to their camp and the non-Muslims went back to their camp. Sa'd ibn Sa'ad radiyallahu anhu made an observation. He said, O Prophet of Allah, there was one man from amongst us today that he did more for the Muslims than anyone else did today. In terms of defeating the enemy, in terms of inflicting damage to the enemy, Sa'al radiallahu anhu says that لَمْ يَدَعْ لَهُمْ شَاذَّةً وَلَا فَاذَّةً إِلَّا اتَّبَعَهَا. He did not let anyone go from his sword. Anyone who was in the crowd and then tried running away, or somebody who was away from the crowd and was trying to escape, no one could escape from this man. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he heard this, and he heard the name of this person being taken and being praised, that he did so much, so many achievements today, he helped us out so much, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said something completely unexpectedly, something that the listeners would never expect him to say. He said, "Ama innahu min ahli an-nar." This person is from the people of Jahannam. So this Sahabi was shocked. He said, I see a man fighting for the Muslims and doing so much and doing more for them than anyone else has done in this battle. So in another riwayah of Bukhari, he said, if this person is from the people of Jahannam, then who can be from the people of Jannah? Somebody like that. Somebody so outstanding. So one person from the Sahaba, when they heard Rasulullah ﷺ saying this, they knew right away that this is haqq. What the Prophet ﷺ has said is haqq. So now why did he say this? We need to go and find out the reason, so that we can take ibrat from this, so we can take a lesson from it, and we can avoid that thing. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said something, it must be taken very seriously. So one Sahabi said, I am going to stick with him and find out what is the matter. So the next day, this Sahabi followed him throughout the battlefield. Wherever this man would speed up, this Sahabi would also start speeding up and following him, staying close to him. When this person would stop, this person would stop. When that person would walk, this person would walk. And he kept at a short distance from him, just following him around through the battlefield and watching him, striking one person after another after another. At one point, this man got injured very badly. This man who was the brave fighter and the brave warrior, he got injured, wounded. And the wounds were so severe that he was not able to tolerate the pain. Couldn't withstand the pain. So he took his sword and put the butt of the sword, meaning the bottom of the handle, he fixed that into the ground, pushed it into the ground, and he took the tip of it, the tip of the blade, and planted it over here, resting his weight on the sword, and then he plunged on the sword with all his weight until the sword, it pierced through his ribs and came out from his back. And he killed himself. This person who was following him came running to Rasulullah ﷺ. He said, Ashhadu annaka Rasulullah. I bear witness that you are the Prophet of Allah. He was already a Muslim, but he was trying to say that Allah has given me another sign to strengthen my yaqeen, to strengthen my belief in you. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, tell me, what is this about? What is leading you to come and say this? He said, O Prophet of Allah, that person that you had mentioned, that he is from the people of Jahannam, and when you said that, people took these words so seriously, and obviously everyone started talking. So I went and followed that person to see what happens with him. So I followed him through the battlefield, and then he explained what he saw. That he got injured very severely, and he turned his sword upside down. He put the handle on the ground, and he jumped onto the sword, and he killed himself. At that time, Rasulullah ﷺ said, إِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَيَعْمَلُ بِعَمَلِ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ فِيمَا يَبْدُو لِلنَّاسِ وَهُوَ مِنْ أَهْلِ النَّارِ. Sometimes, a person is doing the a'mal of the people of Jannah from what is apparent to people, from what people see. People say this person he's so pious, or he's so God-fearing, he's so righteous, he's so honest, so trustworthy. Yani his outside, his outwardly appearance and his behavior and mannerisms would give the impression that this person is definitely, he is engaged in the a'mal of Jannah. But in reality, this person has already been written from the people of Jahannam. And sometimes it's the exact opposite. A person's outwardly appearance, his apparent deeds would give the impression that this person is doomed. So people would say that this person is so sinful, this person is so wrong, this person is so bad. But in fact, Allah has already written him to be from the people of Jannah. What happened here in this hadith? This man, as is mentioned in other riwayat, his name was Quzman, and this person was from the Munafiqeen. And in the battle of Uhud, he had stayed behind. And the women of Medina had made fun of him. They said, "You are just a woman like everybody else. You're not a man. If you were a man, you would have gone and fought alongside the Muslims when the time came for you to stand up. You're not a man." So these words really cut him and bit him. So when the battle of Khaybar came around, he said, "I'm going to show people who a man is. I'll show them what a man is." So he went and he fought so valiantly and so bravely and with such courage and such ferociousness that nobody could stand in front of him. And it was with the Muslims, on the side of the Muslims. Sahaba radiallahu anhum, obviously they were happy, this person is helping them, he's on their side. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had been informed by wahi who this person is and what is about to happen with him. This can mean two things. إِنَّهُ مِنْ أَهْلِ النَّارِ, this person is from the people of Jahannam. It can mean that either he's going to die as a kafir, or that he may be a Muslim, but the way his life ends is going to displease Allah and he will have to go to Jahannam first. So, and then the rest of the story follows. In another riwayah of Bukhari, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at this occasion, he had Bilal radiallahu anhu make an announcement. He said, "Oh Bilal, go and announce to people that لا يدخل الجنة إلا نفس مسلمة. Oh Bilal, go and announce that only those people who believe, who die with Islam are going to enter into Jannah. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَيُؤَيِّدُ هَذَا الدِّينَ بِالرَّجُلِ الْفَاجِرِ." And O Bilal, announce that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does on occasion support this deen through people who are impious, people who are not righteous. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will use those people who they don't have any status in the sight of Allah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will use them to do the work of deen. And that work of deen will not be an asset to that person, because he will not have ikhlas, he will not be doing it properly, he will be doing it for ulterior motives, he will have no status in the sight of Allah. Allah will use him and throw him away. So now when we look at this whole hadith, there are many things that we learn. One of the things we learn is that, first of all, it is not appropriate to make conclusive judgments about anybody. Conclusive judgments means that this is it and there cannot be anything else after this, for good or for bad. If we think that somebody is a good person, we should say that I think he's a very good person. That's it. You've praised them, you've said something good, you've spread a word of khair. But to say that this guy is going to Jannah for sure no matter what happens, this is not in our knowledge, nor are we allowed to say things like this. Cannot say that. Yes, if we have a good opinion, we can express it as a very good, in my opinion, this person is very good. And we can use, very high words of praise for people. But we cannot form conclusive judgment that this person, he's entered into Jannah already. He already has his place. Similarly, we cannot make conclusive judgments, negative judgments about people, that this person, he is doomed, he is gone. Sometimes there may be people, impious people who have done wrong openly. Usually people in these types of discussions, people bring up rulers. That this ruler, he did this, he did this, he did this dhulm, he did that dhulm. A lot of those things may be true. Maybe he did do all of those things. But can we form a conclusive judgment that this person has entered Jahannam? No, we cannot. All we can say is that these deeds that this person did were wrong, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can punish him. But sometimes we only have our attention towards one aspect of the person's life. Somebody does something wrong openly. He becomes infamous, he becomes notorious because of that wrong thing that he did. But he may be countering that wrong thing with many, many good things. But no one knows about those good things. And it may be that the good things he's done for people are much, much more than the wrong he's done against people. We don't know. That's why it is not in human capacity to make a conclusive judgment about anybody, except about those people that Allah and His Rasul have told us about. Nabi Sallallahu when he says, Abu Bakr fil Jannah, wa Umar fil Jannah, wa Uthman fil Jannah, wa Ali fil Jannah, khalas. When the Prophet of Allah Sallallahu says so and so is in Jannah, that's it. There is no room for discussion after that. When he says Al-Hasan wal-Husayn sayyida shababi ahli al-Jannah, khalas. Fatimatu sayyidatu nisa'i ahli al-Jannah, that's it. There is no room for discussion after that. If Allah or His Rasul have told us specifically about somebody, we can have yaqeen that this person is in Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about as-sabiqun al-awwalun min al-muhajirin wal-ansar walladhina ittaba'uhum bi-ihsan radiyallahu anhum wa radu an wa a'adda lahum jannatin tajri tahta al-anharu khalidina fiha. That those people who were the first muhajirin and ansar and those that followed after them, thus Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am pleased with them and I've already prepared Jannah for them. So we know who the muhajirin and ansar are. We know who they are. Their names are known to the world. We can say, yes, these people are in Jannah. There is no room to discuss. وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ. Well, this will continue to Yawm al-Qiyamah, those that followed them with due righteousness. But who are they? We don't know. There could be many of them. There could be thousands. There could be millions of them. Who are they and who aren't they? This is not in our capacity to know. Yes. Everybody regarding himself should be very, very worried and very much afraid. And this part will come next, towards the end. Another lesson that we learn from this hadith is that public opinion about something can be very, very misleading. For better or for worse. Public opinion about something can be very misleading because public view is very superficial. They will look at one apparent thing and make many, many, many judgments about it. But when it comes to making our decisions, we should not be basing our important decisions merely on public opinion. Look how far off these people were. They were going in one direction and Rasulullah ﷺ was telling them something completely different. So when it comes to the important things in our lives, we need to think them through logically and think about all the pros and cons categorically and not just go on what people say or what people think or what people want. This could be something very, very detrimental to a person's life. Because trends change. There are good trends, there are bad trends. There are positive trends, there are negative trends. Just because something is a trend, it doesn't mean that a Muslim has to take it upon himself to follow it. This is the trend. That's why sometimes we say to the youngsters that they should use their sense when they're about to dress in a certain way, when they're about to make their hair in a certain way, when they're about to purchase certain things, when they're about to speak in a certain way, because that is the way that is being used by everybody. They should think with their own minds first before just going ahead and doing it because everybody else is. Because sometimes to follow a trend, you will have to go very, 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 very far. I'll give an example. It's become a trend for people to have all kinds of piercings. Okay? There was a time when it was something very strange to see a man with a pierced ear. It would stick out. I remember when we were young, if we would go into a shopping center and see a man with an earring, we would remember that man for the rest of the day. That, wow, who is that person? What's wrong with this person? And sometimes, many times, I remember reflecting and saying, yeah, I remember once I saw a man. A few months ago I saw a man. It was that rare. And now look. And it's gone beyond ears now. They're piercing just about anything they can get their hands on. So if that is a trend, so that means that that's something that we should follow. Sometimes you will have to go to the extent of selling yourself, selling your decency. If fitting in is what you are interested in, if fitting in and being integrated and being accepted in that sense is what a person is chasing after, he's going to have to go very, very, very far. Look at how people are styling their hair nowadays. I mean, I remember way back, you see, there were some pretty interesting hairstyles. And we used to think that these people must be insane. But today, and at that time, the Muslims in these countries were very few compared to how many there are now. Maybe there were 1/10 of us, of how many we are today. But today it is getting more and more difficult to differentiate a Muslim from a non-Muslim. You'll find the Muslim going after the exact same. He wants to look exactly like that guy that's sitting beside him on the bus. He wants to have the exact same t-shirt, no matter what is written on it. Could be filth written on it. So if a t-shirt with filth written on it, with vulgar language and insolent things are written on it, it becomes the trend. A Muslim is wearing it too. So public opinion, and I could go on, I could talk about this for hours. Thrashed up jeans, torn clothes. There was a time, I remember, when we were in high school, it became a fashion to wear your clothes inside out. Inside out. Imagine people wearing their jeans inside out. Their t-shirts inside out. Their jackets inside out. And it was a style. And you see people walking down the hallway. Say, look, that piece of clothing was meant to be worn in a specific way. No, we're wearing it inside out. I can give you 1,000 examples of this. So just because something is being talked about, being discussed, or there is an inclination, there's a public inclination, tendency towards that thing, it does not mean that that thing is right, or it is justified, or it's something good, or it's something that's going to help you. The same thing applies for those things that are shunned by society. For those things that are rejected by, just because the public does not accept something doesn't mean that it's wrong. We are having issues today where the public is not accepting many things of decency. They're not acceptable. So what does it mean now? We have to become indecent? No. So that's one thing. Another thing that we can learn from this hadith. The third thing. This is very important. Al-a'malu bil-khawati. And this is perhaps one of the most important lessons to be learned from this hadith. And in fact, Imam Bukhari rahimahullah in Kitab al-Riqaq, of Sahih al-Bukhari, he has brought this hadith again under a chapter called Babu al-A'malu bil-Khawatim. That actions are based on their completion. How is that action completed? So it is definitely something encouraging to see a person engaged in good deeds currently. But what every person has to be concerned about in respect to himself is that how will my life end? Will I die doing these deeds? What will my ending be like? This person apparently was doing a great service to Muslims. But the fact is that how he died is the seal of the actions of his life, and that is the state in which he will be resurrected on the Day of Judgment. That is the condition that the person is raised, in the condition that he dies. That's why we find Sahaba radiallahu ajma'een and the Tabi'een and all the great people of this ummah, they were very, very scared of how their last moment in life would be. And they would cry long, long hours begging Allah to give them a good khatimah, to give them a good ending, to give them an ending on iman, to give them an ending which was acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shaitan, he makes us get caught up in the spur of the moment and says, you're fine right now, you're fine, everything is good. So he makes the person feel invincible, like he cannot go wrong. You are so strong in your salat, in your taqwa, in your this, in your this, in your this. And when the person least expects it, that's when shaitan grabs him and turns him into a completely different direction. That's why it's said about Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, that when he was on his deathbed, and people were sitting around him, they were making talqeen of shahada. Say la ilaha illallah, say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. And his son Abdullah was also a great muhaddith, great imam of hadith. He was sitting there also. So he's also saying, Father, say the shahada, say the shahada. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal says, no, not yet, not yet. So he was shocked. He said, Father, what are you saying? At this time, we're telling you to say shahada and you're saying not yet? He became very scared for his father. He said, no, I'm not talking to you. He said, Shaitan just came to me. He said, Ahmad, you escaped from me. You made it. You've got it made now. You spent your whole life serving deen, the imam of his time, person who spread so much khair to the ummah, and so much shar was removed from him, from this ummah. So, Ahmad, you escaped from me. I was telling Shaitan, no, I haven't escaped yet. I have not escaped yet. I'm not dead yet. I am still alert. I am aware of you. I know that you could come even now and lead me astray. This is how our predecessors were. So every person, don't let ourselves be deceived. Today I am practicing, I am coming to the masjid, therefore I have it made. No. Still have a long ways to go. Al-A'malu bil-Khawatim. It's not about what we did, it's what we died doing. That's why we tell our students that are memorizing the Quran. And mashallah, you're memorizing the Quran. You finish the Quran. But it's not about memorizing it. It's about taking it into your grave with you. That's what we want. That when you go into your grave, the whole Quran is preserved as it is today. And that is where the challenge comes. Similarly, it's one thing to be a musalli, somebody who is praying regularly. It's another thing to take all of these salawat and preserve them and take them into our grave with us. And preserving them involves many, many things. Sometimes we're doing good deeds from one side, but we're doing a bad deed from the other side that is negating these good deeds. And on the Day of Judgment, these things will become apparent. So a person has to constantly be alert, and on our minds should be, my last moment in this world, how is it going to be? And if we have this concern, if we have this target in front of us that I have to die as a complete mu'min, then we will never ever be content no matter how many good deeds we do. And if we don't have that moment in front of us, we will do a little bit and we will let ourselves become happy and pleased. Much to the pleasure of shaitan. That's why again, for these youngsters, that mashallah, today we're seeing you in the masjid. We want to see you in the masjid until you leave this world. That takes a lot of effort. It's one thing to come to the masjid. It's another thing to develop that adherence to the masjid that will keep you as a regular musalli until your last day. It takes a lot of effort. So a person has to be scared on one side, but at the other side he has to be making a lot of diligent effort. Not let shaitan get even a minute from us. It's a big thing. And it also involves constantly making tawbah. Constantly making tawbah. When a person becomes ghafil of tawbah, when a person forgets about tawbah and istighfar, that's when shaitan jumps upon him. Because a person sometimes he feels, no, I'm okay right now. Rasulullah ﷺ is saying, Ya ayyuhan nas tubu ila Allah. فإني لأتوب إلى الله فإني لأستغفر الله وأتوب إليه في اليوم 70 مرة. Oh people, keep making tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Nabi ﷺ says, I make tawbah and istighfar to Allah every day 70 times. Tawbah from what? He has no sins. But he's still making tawbah over because Allah loves people who make tawbah. And Allah yuhibbu tawabin. So to constantly make tawbah to Allah and say, oh Allah, let there not be one sin somewhere that I don't even know about that may be a means of my destruction on the Day of Judgment. Oh Allah, forgive that sin also. And the last lesson, which is also a serious one, is that sometimes we find ourselves doing service for deen in different shapes, in different forms. It could be that my wealth has been used to do something for deen, to establish something for deen. It could be that my time has been used to do something for deen. It could be that my talents, my skills have been used. It could be that my physical strength has been used. It could be that my ideas have been used. There are different ways in which people contribute to dini works. Based on these contributions that a person has made, no matter what shape they may be in, a person should never ever form an opinion about himself whereby he thinks that he is now accepted by Allah. A person should never have this false impression. We should not think that, no, now I am accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this hadith of Bukhari, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُؤَيِّدُ هَذَا الدِّينَ بِالرَّجُلِ الْفَاجِرِ. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an unaccepted person and uses whatever he has for the sake of deen. Why? Allah is Ghani. Allah is Samad. Which is what happened in the case of this person. Allah used him, so many non-Muslims were defeated by him, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala threw him away. So who is to say that we in this world are spending our lives thinking that we're doing the work of deen, and we think that we are accepted, or we have been accepted now by Allah, or we have been chosen now, whereas there is no acceptance in the heavens for us. Something to really, really think about and really, really be worried about. That's why, my dear brothers and friends, we should never ever think of dini services as a feather in our cap, as a notch in our belt. Oh, that's another achievement. Yeah, I've done that too. Brother, you don't know I've done this. I've done this. It could be for any type of dini work. We don't have to go into details. But for somebody who says, no, I've done this, and I've done this, and I've done this, and I've done this, I may have done it, but who is to say that it has been accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? Once, in England, there was a Darul Uloom in a place called Bury. And one great muhaddith, Shaykh Muhammad Zakaria rahimahullah, he was visiting there. And he happened to be the teacher and the mentor of the person who established that Darul Uloom. So they had a great gathering there, thousands of people, and in fact, the first batch of ulama were graduating from there. So at that time, at that occasion, someone stood up and they read a poem, they read a qasida in praise of this Shaykh Zakaria, about his achievements, the books he's written, the knowledge he has, and this and this and this and this. And the Shaykh was present. So he became very upset. And he cried, and he cried, and he cried. And he told his student who had established this, he said, "Didn't you learn any hadith from me? I spent my life teaching hadith, and you studied Bukhari from me. Didn't you learn anything? Have you forgotten that hadith? Inna Allah la yu'ayyidu hadha ad-deen bil-rajul al-fajir." That sometimes Allah takes the work of deen from people that are not even accepted. Today, in front of all of these people, you had my achievements enumerated and counted. He did this, he did this, he did this, he's done this, he's done this. What if none of it was accepted? And who will save me? Will you save me on the Day of Judgment? This is how every Muslim should think about himself. So this is not to discourage, this hadith is not to discourage anyone. This hadith is one of those ahadith that enables us to assess ourselves. To assess ourselves and rate ourselves at where do I stand today. These ahadith, these are a gauge for us. They're like a mirror. We look at them and we understand that, okay, where I stand today. And they apply to every single one of us. Such were the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and such teachings are not found in any deen. Such teachings do not exist in any other religion or in any other system of life. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to have the value for these teachings and implement them in our lives so that we succeed through these teachings. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa